Hello and welcome to the English edition of the Scan Daily News. My name is Garis Duma. The result of a two-day meeting with the Senior Commissioner for Enlargement in Tirana have been excellent. Appreciating 2013 as a positive year for Albania, the Commissioner has sparked hopes that the Albanians in December will enjoy candidate status in the EU. This year, Albania has made significant progress, more than expected, and the results are the key priorities that were set to meet the progress report. This has been the essence of the statement from the Commissioner of Enlargement, Stefan Füle, after a high-level meeting held in Tirana. These discussions have been at an excellent level, Füle praised, adding that the information was detailed with clear messages and recommendations. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Edi Rama said that although the European Commission has made a fresh proposal for granting the status, fulfillment of the recommendations is important for our own country, and then for the EU. Over 2 days, the Commissioner for Enlargement, Stefan Füle, held multiple high-level meetings in Tirana. Civil society protested again against the destruction of chemical weapons in Albania. But at the same time, during a press conference with Commissioner Füle, the Prime Minister stated that the interest of the citizens will be considered first and foremost in any decision made by the government. The Alliance Against Waste Import protests continued towards the refusal of Syrian chemical weapon destruction in Albania. The next rally took place just a few meters away from the offices of the Prime Minister at the former pyramid. Protesters, who these times were more numerous, shouted unanimously against the import of chemical weapons and appealed to all citizens to embrace their cause. The representative of AAWI, Blendi Kaisiu, told protesters that protests would continue in order to avoid the risk of the import of chemical weapons. According to him, the Albanian government officials did not comment on the process of elimination of the poisons, and that other international media have quoted Albania as a potential site for their destruction. But, at the same time as the protest, the Prime Minister Edi Rama reacted as well, stating that the interest of the citizens will be considered first and foremost in any decision made by the government. According to him, if you have concrete proposals for inclusion of Albania in this action, the proposal will be taken in consultation with civil society. The opposition has raised doubts about the existence of a new scheme to discharge the majority of heads of independent institutions. This scheme, applied to the High Inspectorate of Declaration of Assets, according to the opposition, aims towards justifying the dismissal of senior managers. The Parliamentary Laws Committee approved the proposals for setting up a control group consisting of members of this committee to check the work of the High Inspectorate of Declaration of Assets. This practice was described by the opposition as the launch of the implementation scheme for the removal of the chief executive of the institution. The possibility that at the end of the investigative procedure of the HIDA, there be a request for the removal of the HIDA top inspectorate, Zana Gjuka, was accepted by some members of the majority. Furthermore, Deputy Bashkim Fino proposed that the commission be passed directly to request the removal of the top inspectorate, based on the most recent report of the Assembly's monitoring service, which highlighted some problems with the work of this institution. The demand for an investigation procedure from the top inspectorate came after the publication of the contradictions that exist between the top inspectorate and the employees of the institution. The request for labor control by the HIDA bears a signature of 34 employees from 39 in total that this institution harbors. In response to this request, the Commission delivered upon the request by only the votes of the majority and without the presence of the opposition, resembling the return of Piro Gjijo at the head of the electronic and postal communications. Treasury interest bonds have touched upon the recent auction and offered the minimum value ever recorded. The loose monetary policy of the central bank is reflected above all in the price reduction of government debt. In the auction, the government announced a loan of 11.3 billion lek, which could have amounted to 14 billion lek. Treasury bonds recorded another record in decreasing rates. The weighted average interest rate for 12-month bonds fell to 3.73%, which makes the government debt even cheaper than before. A new record was marked by bonds with a maturity of 6 months, which reached a record level of 3.49%. In this way, after 3-month bills, the 6-month bills also fall below the interest rate for the very first time. The loose monetary policy of the central bank is reflected above all in the price reduction of the government debt. But the main reason behind the policy is due to credit weakness and the lack of other alternatives to invest in the savings economy. In the recent auction, the government announced a loan of 11.3 billion lek, while bids in auctions amounted to 14 billion lek. Those who favor the reduction of interest are depositors. Lowering the interest rate in bonds has led to lowering of the bank interest in recent months. Interest on bonds is generally a reference base for long-term loans, and their reduction helps the borrower to pay in lower installments. But, to some extent, the interests of new loans are affected by this trend. Some banks are emerging with attractive interest rates, particularly in loans to individuals. Although lending remains at a standstill due to problems of supply and demand, it seems that the goal of the monetary policy to reduce interest rates in the financial market has started to operate. The number of Italian businesses wishing to invest in Albania should be even higher. For this purpose, the Ministry of Economic Development has prepared several packages for specific sectors. The Albanian government has begun implementing a strategy for attracting Italian investments in various sectors of the economy. The Deputy Minister of Economic Development, Brunilde Pascalis, said that the packages will be prepared and offered to Italian entrepreneurs for investment in various sectors. These statements were made during a meeting held with the Italian ambassador of Albania, Massimo Gaiani. Italian entrepreneurs have invested heavily in the development of SME enterprises in Albania, occupying 99% of private businesses. However, Italian entrepreneurs have failed to invest in the privatization of the country's strategic sectors, such as energy and telecommunications. The delay in the passage of television operators from analog to digital systems is withholding the issuance of 4G mobile licenses in Albania. The strategy for the transition to digital broadcasting has a deadline set in June of 2015, but the launch of procedures for the adoption of 4G technology will certainly require time since Albania has not yet finished the process of issuing 3G licenses. Giving 4G mobile licenses has been put on hold until television switched to digital broadcasting. Resources at the Postal and Electronic Authority suggest that the most suitable band for 4G frequencies is 790 to 862 MHz, which is actually currently being used by analog television operators in broadcasting. Full digital broadcasting will release this generation, and it is expected to be used for 4G transmissions. The strategy for the transition to digital broadcasting has a deadline until the month of June in 2015. But the problem is that the transition into digital broadcasting has not yet had a clear modus of operation. The national strategy for this procedure has come up with several options for television operators, but the public consultation phase for the process is not yet closed. The change of government power and the expected changes in the direction of the Audiovisual Media Authority may create further delays in the process. Meanwhile, in February of this year, the government approved a new frequency plan. The plan provides that the frequency band 790 to 862 MHz will be administered by the AEPC after the transfer to digital broadcasting. This is the first expected generation to use 4G communications, technology that enables service delivery and data transmission at speeds up to 100 Mbps, which means a much faster internet through mobile networks. But the launch of procedures for the adoption of 4G technologies will certainly require time since Albania has not yet finished issuing 3G licenses. The race for authorizing the fourth generation is expected to start later this year. Thank you for following our English edition. My name is Garis Duma.